Have you ever buy a console just to play one game? Removed. Bought the Switch to play Breath of the Wild. Was never a big Nintendo guy until then. I was sold. Initially bought a Switch once Smash Ultimate had the "Everyone is Here" trailer. Eventually built up my library ever since, but it was primarily for Smash Ultimate. Same, have only ever played Pokemon, Zelda on my Switch lol. I bought a Switch solely for Let's Go Pikachu. It was fine. The Pikachu Eevee Switch is nice though. I could never play Pokemon on a Switch. Give me 4K 60 FPS instead of the garbage they are selling. Playing modern Pokemon on a Switch is like watching a movie on a flip phone with a cracked screen. Yeah man, older Pokemon games on the DS and older is where it was at. It's no wonder those games are so valuable nowadays other than the nostalgia factor. Oh no. I still play all the modern Pokemon games too. But on PC. Not on Switch. Everyone complains about the performance and how awful they look. But I've only had amazing experiences in 4K and smooth 60/120th FPS on emulators. Arceus Legends on a projector is amazing. Exactly what little kid me dreamed playing Pokemon could be like. Okay, now what you're gonna do is take this exact same comment and paste it over on the Switch subreddit. Do it. So just blatantly bait? I bought a Switch to play Breath of the Wild. Turns out I just didn't like Bot W no matter how badly I tried making myself. But found some wonderful indie and AAA games on Switch. So well worth it. Still can't get into Bot W though. Even more strange is I love Tot K. Care to share some of those indie titles? I'm trying to use my Switch more. For me that was Mario Odyssey lol. Nintendo has that effect. Especially when they don't sell their games anywhere other than their own console. Me too. Really wish they came out with Odyssey 2. It was such a great game. It was everything I wanted Galaxy to be. Totally this. Love though that the Nintendo Store is an indie dev's playground. This also causes the Nintendo Store to be flooded with garbage that appears to be decent. Unfortunately. Greater than be me. Greater than buy the Switch to play Breath of the Wild. Greater than play Bayonetta instead. Greater than profit. Same here. Got my Switch to play Bot W and Mario Odyssey. Ended up using it mainly to play Bayo 1 and 2. And a shit ton of Stardew Valley. I did the same thing. Finished Bot, then got Smash Bros Ultimate and trained a Bayonetta figure. Forgot the name. To LVL9 and no one I knew could beat it. Yeah, did the same for Mario Odyssey, but it wasn't out yet, so tried Zelda for the first time and loved it so much that it's my most played game now. Same. 300 quid game. Worth every penny. Did the same, but unfortunately felt the opposite. Very underwhelming. One of the few worthwhile examples. I bought the Switch for my wife and she was playing Bot W. One of the best games of all time. I bought the Wii for Super Smash Bros. Tried like 3 other games, but my brother in Christ, I can safely say, input thousands of hours on that one game. My brother and I became Smash zealots ever since the N64. I've lost about at least a dozen controllers due to my death grip flicks on the joysticks. And while I'm at it, the N64 controller was a wild beast of a controller, wasn't it? Don't know what they were smoking when they designed it. And shit, while I'm still at it, the greatest controller made was the Wavebird for the GameCube. Change my mind. God, being an old gamer sure makes me ramble about dumb shit. Lead developer of the Switch. Please do not buy a Nintendo Switch just to play Zelda. I shit you not. He actually made a press release just to say that. Rolling on the floor laughing. I commented and then totally forgot that I bought a Switch for Bo TW and then subsequently didn't touch it until TK came out. I did play Binding of Isaac every once in a while, bit that was really just a side activity. I bought a Switch for Bot W. Played it till 100% completion and sold the Switch. Repeated the process for Tot K, and I'm do the same thing when the next Zelda comes out. Switch as well, but it was for Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate. Put 500 hours into that game. No regrets. Me too, although oddly I just can't seem to get into tears. I've restarted 3 times. You aren't alone, that game essentially is playing bot again. It feels that way at first, but it really becomes its own thing after a while. I felt disappointed by it at first, but after a week of playing it finally took off. I understand not everyone has the time to invest in it though. I will go back to it eventually. Maybe because I was burnt out of playing open world games when it was released. Funny. I bought a used Wii U just for Bot W. And after having played it on my friend's Switch, it's a lot more fun on a Wii U. The functionality of the gamepad worked very well. Same. Then I decided to also get Splatoon 2. Which is a great game. I now own over 15 titles. I bought the Switch to play Pokemon Sword lol. I did the same thing with 2DS to play Pokemon X. Bloodborne. Fans. Can we get Bloodborne on PC? Sony. Fans. At the very least a 4K 60 FPS patch on PS5. Sony. I bought a PS5 just to play PS4 Bloodborne. Same. But then I played Demon Souls first and it spoiled me. I couldn't handle the blurry 30 FPS. Sony really needs to remaster it. Soulsborne games have a muddy aesthetic that has helped their popularity. I like that they are ugly and dark to look at. Not the muddiness. It's the frame pacing IIRC. It's 30 FPS but looks like it's at 20 FPS. I already can't stand playing at 30 FPS even in the better games at it, so that goes 10x more for Bloodborne. Grant us eyes. Grant us eyes. Frame times are unstable. I agree. I didn't play it yet. Because I'm a scared baby. Because of the FPS. Shadow of Mordor was painful too. Yeah, but Bloodborne visually sucky. Just go out of the clinic at the beginning. And turn left and look at the railing. Or the fence. It's blurry white shiny nonsense. Playday remake as well. Exclamation mark. Not exactly the same, but Lies of P scratched the itch for me decently well. Definitely not the same. While a great game, it's miles behind Bloodborne. Nothing beats Trick Weapons. Honestly, Bloodborne was my first from game and nothing came close. Sekiro came the closest. But only Beck. The gameplay was just RLY something else. Every other game feels clunky in comparison. Miles behind is pretty harsh. I had more fun with Lies of P than some actual FromSoft games. It's not as good as Bloodborne, but if Bloodborne is a 9/10, Lies of P is a 7 or 8. A very different game, TBH. Not sure why some people comparing them even. Souls-like also in a Victorian fantasy setting, and it's enough to have people hype up your game as a new Bloodborne. So Dishonored and AC Syndicate must be also similar to Bloodborne? Victorian setting. Reading comprehension is hard, I guess. Not saying it's justified. Just saying that's why people were comparing it to Bloodborne. Also, Syndicate and Dishonored aren't Souls-like. Nor fantasy. Did you even play these games? Just because they take place in Victorian-era cities doesn't make these games similar. Lies of P is a mixture with pretty much linear areas and is much more story-focused. Only those who didn't play these games say that they are similar because of Victorian-era setting. While in reality they are almost nothing alike. Holy shit, reading comprehension is really hard. Keep trying. Because there are obvious similarities. There are obvious similarities with Sekiro. With Dark Souls, and much more of obvious differences. Lies of P is as similar to Bloodborne as Sekiro is. What a bad take. Guess you didn't play it. Makes no sense. They've said it's very difficult to do because certain animation timings are tied directly to the frame rate. How true that really is. Who knows? They wouldn't be the first game studio to do that though. Sony have said nothing on why they aren't touching Bloodborne, and that is what is so frustrating. There is an insane madman known as Imfa that made his own handmade patch on PS5. Fans, yay, we're getting Bloodborne cart in a few days. Sony, oh hell nah. It's not up to Sony. Except it is totally up to Sony. Will you finally make a comment in this thread where you're not 100% wrong? It legit looks like you're always talking without having any clue. Ah, the irony. Miyazaki refuses to work on remaster of Bloodborne. Sony has absolutely nothing to do with it. Sony owns the IP. FromSoft doesn't. Even though they made it. It is literally up to Sony. Miyazaki confirmed this not too long ago. Lol, you don't have any clue. Clown. Miyazaki isn't even allowed to speak about any Bloodborne remaster, remake. Superchamp. FromSoft doesn't own the IP. Go read this and educate yourself. https nordic.ign.com/elden-ring/79128/feature/2-years-after-elden-ring-meiyazaki-trusts-the-players-to- Figure it all out. It is 100% up to Sony. If it was up to From Software, Bloodborne would have been on PC a long time ago. The quickest of Google searches would tell you the only thing stopping PC Bloodborne is Sony. They can't let an exclusive go. 'Cause they're scummy. No. Miyazaki refuses to work on Bloodborne remaster. He said it himself. Absolutely nothing to do with Sony. We don't want a remaster. We just want Bloodborne on PC. Which is up to Sony to greenlight. They own the game. Not From Software and not Miyazaki. Back in 2010 I had heard of this really hard RPG that was only available on PS3, and up until that point I had been all in on Xbox. Mom worked for Microsoft and everything. But I wanted the challenge, so I saved up over the summer working as a teenager and bought a used PS3 and Demon's Souls at GameStop. I remember the middle-aged guy saying that I'll be back in a week, exchange it for something easier. It changed the way I look at games. Now I get frustrated trying to play the new Pokemon because it holds your hand too much. It also taught me how to use wikis, because back then there was almost nothing on the internet about the game. So it was a social experience as well. So yeah. Bought a console for a game, and it probably altered the course of my life. Same. I vividly remember Black Friday walking around Best Buy and seeing a PS4 half off, and I bought it. In a bundle that included Until Dawn and Bloodborne. That purchase kept me entertained for a long time. The PS4 was worth every penny just for that game. Me too. Yup, here too. Bought the PS4 and only ever had BB on it. Same here. Got my PS4 Pro just for that. Did that in 2015. Finished the game just a week ago. So glad to see this as the top comment. I would buy a PlayStation for BB alone. I might do so yet. I am just glad Ghost of Tsushima is coming on PC. Otherwise that and Bloodborne were tempting me. I'm at year 7 of waiting. I don't care anymore. I won't buy it to play it on atrocious FPS. Same. But after playing it, I went and played all the PS exclusives. But the initial purchase was for Bloodborne. I bought a jailbroken PS5 just to play Bloodborne 60 FPS, one of my favorite games, was worth it. I bought a PS4 to play Red Dead 2. Completely bounced off that game. And Bloodborne ended up being the only game I played on the console. Great game. But it was a massive waste of money overall. I am not a gamer. But I play GTA 5, offline, a lot. I am planning to buy a PS5 only to play GTA V Tears of Joy. I tried Demon's Souls and hate it, and I'm a huge Souls fan. Something about it just doesn't feel right to me. Yet to play Bloodborne. Fat PS3 for MGS4. Same. First one that didn't have backwards compatibility with PS2, sad face. Not that that matters anymore. You can get a non-backcompat PS3 and a PS2 for significantly cheaper these days. Not to mention that the backcompat PS3s are seriously flawed and doomed to hardware failure. Ironically, the disk drive on mine failed when I tried to replay MGS3. Mine broke the day after a surgery. Luckily, Craigslist had some local PS fixers and was working again in a day or so. Mine died, and I fixed it 3 times. Waiting for TLOU. Never played TLOU. Never will. Most def, but at the time it kinda sucked. Greater than backcompat PS3s are seriously flawed and doomed to hardware failure. In what way? I bought mine used a long time ago. And still use it occasionally. Anything I can do to lower the risk? All PS3 90nm GPUs. So the first half of the FAT models were built with a glue that holds the GPU chip to the carrier board that can't handle the temperature. This means that as the chip heats, it ends up warping and slowly breaks the connections. You can get a newer GPU installed, but it's a very skilled job and pricey. The capacitors also die due to age plus heat. Just normal end of useful life. But that's not as bad to replace. You can help to prevent it by, in order of effort, *key, keeping the console cool by keeping it well ventilated. Keeping the heatsink and air path clean and clear. Repasting the CPU plus GPU. Installing a custom firmware. And installing Webman mod, which lets you set a custom fan curve, making the console louder but cooler. Delidding the GPU. Removing the metal heat spreader and either running it without or at least repasting underneath. You don't need to delid the CPU. I tried to open one once. And it didn't turn back on. But maybe I'll give it another go. i.e. trying to fix the same unit. Same. Even if 0 good games came out on it, I'd have been happy. Did the exact same. Felt like a king playing that for the first time on a 1080p HD small TV. Tears of joy. Still an epic game. Paper me too! ! Vita just for Persona 4 Golden. Same. Though my Vita is now jailbroken, so it's not just exclusively for P4G but also PSP games. Do the PSP games share controls with the Vita, or do you have to edit some of them since the PSP lacked a joystick the Vita has? Same buttons except for the right joystick, it doesn't function on PSP games. I may have to get a Vita that isn't stupidly priced and jailbreak it then. I really don't like the controls I get on PPSSPP even with a controller lol. You can bind the right joystick. Game changer in FPS and games like MGS, PW or MHFU. Same, found 1 or 2 other games but it was just P4G. I did this and got a PS4 for Persona 5. Did the same with GameCube for Phantasy Star Online but ended up loving a lot of GameCube stuff. It was the Vita for me too. But it was to play Disgaea 4. Same, and double dip when Persona 4 Golden go to Steam, worth it. The Vita had such incredible potential, but Sony really nailed the coffin lid on that one. There's hardly even much of a decent game library. Muramasa. Demon Blade is another reason to own a Vita. Unlike other Vanillaware games, it doesn't seem likely to get a remaster or port for consoles. Yes sir. Same for me. I ended up loving the design and feel of the Vita. But I bought it solely for P4G and never played a single other game on it. I've bought a Xbox just to play Halo. Played Halo in my friend's dorm. My PS2 developed errors out of warranty. So all of my money from my summer job went to buying an Xbox and Halo. I've been all in on Xbox ever since. I did the exact same thing. Played Halo at a friend's house and then begged my parents to get me an Xbox for my birthday, haha. Yes, this game was console seller. Then Gears came out. What wild times. Ditto, and I already had a PS2. Forza Horizon series. There's just no other that can compete. I bought the 360 for PGR4. It's kinda funny because I did plan to buy more games but I never came around to do it. The 360 simply stayed as a PGR4 game. Was PGR3 any good or similar? I bought the fourth one because of the graphics but I never really checked to see if the third one was just as good. Same. Honestly. I might do this again for the Master Chief Collection. I haven't had an Xbox since the 360 days. And I had that blue Halo 3 faceplate. I could play them on my PC. But I'm not at the age or point in my life where I can dump money and time into keeping it up to specs anymore. This is the correct answer. I bought the original Xbox for Fable. Bought 360 for Fable 2. Bought Xbone for Fable 3. Which sucked ass. Same. Never looked back. Hacked the ish out at it towards the end. Same. I first played at a friend's on a projector and was blown away. Had to have an Xbox after that. Same. Friend had me try Halo 3 and the week after that I got the 360. I bought a PlayStation for the Halo killer, Killzone. Me PS4 for FFVII Remake. Also me for that and a PS5 for Rebirth. I assume the third title will be for PS5, but if it ends up being a PS6 exclusive, so be it. I will procure a PS6. I also build a PC for FFXIV 1.0. But that hardly counts since it was also running so many more things. I wouldn't have upgraded if not for that title's system requirements. However, lastly, I got a PS Vita for Persona 4 Golden. Still use it for a bunch of other stuff too. Fantastic machine that Sony really should have just supported more. I wish Sony had just stuck with supporting their handhelds better. They were excellent. I bought a PSP on release after a friend brought one back from Tokyo. UK release was much later. And showed it around the office. I fell in love with it. Especially as at the time the only real alternative was the DS. PS1 to play Gran Turismo 2. I'm a PlayStation purchaser purely for the GT series. All other exclusives I care about end up on PC at some point. PS1 to play Symphony of the Night and Final Fantasy VII. Bought a PS2 for Guitar Hero 2. Only other game I got on it was Guitar Hero 3. I blame that series for my bad eyes and fucked up back. Lost a lot of time to that juggernaut back in the day. Was my plan when FFVII Rebirth was announced. But did not happen. Cold sweat smile. Lol, why if I may know. Need to save more than spend more. Open mouth smile. I bought an original Xbox to play KOTOR when it came out. Just to pivot off of this, I bought a PS5 for the KOTOR remake. Yeah, still hoping. Xbox gamer forever, but seriously considering a PS5 for Helldivers 2 and the God of War series. I got Helldivers 2 on PC. It's so much fun to play, haha. PS5 is totally worth it for God of War and Last of Us. Isn't TLOU on Steam? Yeah, I think God of War is too, isn't it? Yep, but not Ragnarok yet. Ragnarok was not as good as the 2018 GAO. Was more of the same, just far less awe. It is, and the second one probably will in the next 12 months. It is, but the port was really shoddy. TLOU 1 and God of War are already on PC. TLOU 2 is shit from what I have heard, and God of War Ragnarok is probably coming to PC. The Last of Us 2 was a masterpiece that was review bombed by a bunch of sheep tweens. It had very high reviews from everyone in the industry and won Game of the Year for a reason. So unless you are a homophobe or a tween, there's a pretty good chance you will love the second one. If you enjoyed the first, I don't know. A lot of the reviewers I like watching hated it. I feel like it's a generalization to deem anyone who doesn't like your game a homophobe and a tween. Not the guy you were talking to. It's a very good game. People who were very attached to certain characters lose their shit when those characters are killed off. That's my theory. It plays pretty much the same as the first one, but the story is probably why it was review bombed. As far as playability goes, if you like cinematic bloodbath, it nails it. Just did for exactly these two games. Played the first chapters on Steam and was hooked. The new $399 digital bundle made it an easy pickup. PS exclusives are some of my favorite and best single players of all time. Emo, God of War, Last of Us, Bloodborne are all amazing games that makes buying a PS worth it. And there's still way more. Literally just bought a PS5 2 days ago for HD2. Thinking about selling it as the buyer's remorse from spontaneity is kicking in. IDK. Haven't played any of the exclusives, so it might stick around. Just find myself going back to DRG after a bit of Helldivers. Rock and Stone. Unpopular opinion. I don't like HD2 that much. I'd certainly not buy a console for it even if I did. I don't think it's that kind of game. Hop onto PC. We get all exclusives at some point. And we also get RHE Xbox games with cross-save, so it's not useless to keep it on your TV. There's a massive world of incredible exclusives on both consoles. I'm a bit biased towards PS since I have a PC where the Xbox exclusives go. But if you have the expendable income to go to the other side for a few games, then it's absolutely worth it. Bought my PS5 strictly for the Wolverine game that still doesn't have a release date. What are you playing now? I don't know about OP, but I told my fiance I wanted a PS5 because of Spider-Man, my favorite superhero. But secretly dying to play Ghost of Tsushima. Did not disappoint. I did the exact same but ended up absolutely loving Days Gone. Though God is a bloody good game too. There's so many good games included with the subscription to PSN that I missed out on being Xbox. Clark is being goofy, not taking advantage of. In fairness, I'm not your normal gamer. I typically focus on one game at a time and can't get myself to try other games while playing that one game. Baseball is my first love, so I'm currently waiting on the show. I just finished The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered. Before that was Last of Us 1. Before that was MLB The Show 23. Waiting for MLB The Show on my Xbox. I bought mine in preparation for GTA 6 before it was even announced. My PS4 was on its last legs anyway, so it was a good time to upgrade. At least that's how I justified it at the time. Currently playing through Red Dead Redemption. Having recently completed RDR2 again. I similarly bought a GameCube in anticipation for Perfect Dark's sequel. And it ended up in development hell until finally being spit out on the Xbox 360, where it disappointed the ever-living hell out of me. I had switched to Xbox the moment I tried Halo CE. So PDZ was kind of along the road in my Xbox life. I bought a 360 to play Dead Rising. Worth it. Me too. At first I was like, this doesn't look too different from a PS2 inches. Then I got close to the group zombies. Picked up a TV and just started wailing on them. That's when I noticed the generational difference. I didn't have the money for an HD TV at the time. I hated Otis so much in SD. PS Vita for Persona 4 Golden. Bought a PS3 to play Metal Gear Solid. Got home, connected it to the good old CRT. An hour later I got up and bought a much bigger LCD TV. Good old days when money was less of a problem. Those old CRT TVs are one piece of tech that I've never felt nostalgia for. Lol. My back hurts a little just thinking about moving those goddamned things. Nah, they were great for the old systems and old TV broadcasts. Moving them was hell. I give you that. I would try to get an old CRT if I still had some old consoles. But currently I would not have a use for it. Maybe someday. Funnily enough, CRT have virtually zero latency and screen tear, making them more responsive than like 95% of anything out these days. Unless you're paying a wild amount for some special OLED setup. I tend to wait until there are at least 3 games that I really want before I pull the trigger on a console. 5 for me. Still haven't even gotten that far to reasonably get a PS5. I bought a PS4 for Spider-Man. I switched from 360 to PS4 so I could play Uncharted Anthology and Last of Us. Those 2 games probably lasted me 6 months at least. Yup, and a PS5 for Spider-Man 2. Nah, I just wait for everything to come to PC. Based. Yeah, I bought a Wii U just for Super Mario Maker. Switch Lite just to play Animal Crossing during the pandemic. Ended up working 60+ hours per week and too exhausted to really play it. Cold sweat smile. Not console, but I bought VR headset just to play Half-Life Alyx. I bought a PlayStation 4 Pro just for Persona 5 in late 2017. I couldn't wait to play it any longer. I also bought a Vita just for Persona 4 Golden. Nintendo 64 for Zelda. I wish I still had them. You can run it on pretty much any laptop that's 20 years old or newer. N64 emulation doesn't need much power. Even cheap laptops can run GameCube, Wii games these days. Heck, Ocarina of Time has been decompiled and ported to PC. So you don't even need to have the emulation overhead. These old Zelda you should able to play via Nintendo Online membership. I run them on an old Wii I got from a pawn shop for $5 and just cracked it. Pretty sure I did to play Metal Gear Solid 4. Switch just to play Smash Bros and Pokemon. PS4 Slim. Late into the cycle. Before the COVID lockdown started. Maybe January 2020. For Spider-Man first. And then Persona 5 Royal. It was a glorious time. With Persona 5 Royal arriving at my door during the height of lockdown. So I could no-life it for 200+ hours with reckless abandon. Now, both games are on PC. And I may have only booted up my PS4 twice last year. I bought a playdate so I could have access to Lucas Pope's new game. Which comes out today. But it has several other nice games on it, of course. Originally got a PSP just for FF7 Crisis Core. Need to pick up the remastered version eventually.